What up, y'all? UFC 318, Poirier versus Holloway 3. Probably one of the best game plan switches in a rematch that I can think of in recent memory. Max got whopped in the second match, and he had to kind of go back to the drawing board and address some pretty big errors. So we're going to talk about a handful of them today. So first thing, let's discuss Max's footwork. So probably 30-ish seconds into the fight, we already saw a difference, which is Max having increased distance away from Poirier. So no secret, Poirier has got some smoke in those hands, and Max made sure that he had a little bit more distance away from Poirier so that there was a larger margin for error. Now, and this is something it's always a wise strategy, especially, again, we have, several minutes of tape now from their previous matches, and there was a lot of unnecessary punishment that Max took. So in order to decrease that punishment, we're going to have a little bit more room between us. So now I can see you coming as you step in and try to put some smoke on me. Now, so we saw, and again, these are kind of very boring pieces of footwork, and these are things that people always tell you, oh, you can't go straight back. But it's perfectly fine to go straight back if you have room behind you. If you're closer to the center and then you retreat back and then you make your way back to the center, that's completely fine. So we saw a lot of retreating as Dustin was trying to set up some work, whether he's kind of creeping forward or maybe kind of showing probing jabs. We would see Max reach his hand out and stuff that jab and use that point of contact on Dustin to retreat the rest of his body back while occupying one of Dustin's hands. So amazing work from Max, as opposed to, again, the last fight where he just kind of stood there and wanted to get into a bit of a shootout, which is a dangerous thing to do. If you're, pretty much anybody would be in danger doing that with Dustin. Next thing is, again, also discussing the footwork, we're going to talk about the circling. So two reasons for Max circling. One, and we kind of touched on it before, is when you get close to the cage, you want to make sure to get out. So Max was incredible at this. Again, got touched a couple times, but for the most part, excellent job having that ring awareness to, hey, I'm getting backed up to the cage, and I'm going to have way less options. Dustin's going to try to put some smoke on me. Let me get out. Now, the next application of circling is again a very, very old school strategy that I don't want to say old school, but kind of it's a concrete strategy that's been with us since the get. Is constantly switching directions of circling and versus a heavy hitter. Now, if a heavy hitter cannot plant, they can't hit you with that much smoke. So when you see that they're kind of basing down, looking to put some work on you, constant circling will make it a tough time, because they orient to one direction, but then you circle away from them. Then they have to reorient, then you circle the other way. So in this constant reorientation, it's going to be very difficult for a heavy hitter to find a time to reorient and clip you before you're out of the way. Next, we have Max's stopping mechanisms. Now, I go into a more detailed version of this on the Patreon. So those of you guys who are not hip to it, I will be putting a link in the description below. You guys can check it out, and I actually have a video segments that are breaking down the details I'm discussing. But the stopping mechanisms are important, because at the end of the day, you can't just retreat the whole fight. You have to have things to discourage them from moving forward. The right kick and the knee stomp were two tools that Max used, and now each one has a couple different applications. Now let's talk about the knee stomp first. Knee stomp is pretty simple. It's very similar to how John Jones used it, which is discouraging an opponent from stalking you. So if you get an opponent like Dustin who wants to close that distance in order to put the smoke on you, if they're constantly worried about getting holes put up in their knees, it's going to make them a bit skittish when they're trying to advance forward. Now, the right kick, we have to keep in mind, again, this is an open stance matchup. So Max being orthodox or conventional and Dustin being southpaw, Dustin's rear side is where his rear straight is going to come from. Now, technically, Dustin is right-handed, so his right side is more powerful, but the rear side is generally the one that's going to be, if Dustin is southpaw, is going to be the shot that's going to be set up by, prefaced by a jab and then the left straight. Now, Max did an incredible job with his right kick. His right kick, if Dustin was loading up to throw his right straight, Max would throw that right kick and try to float it underneath the elbow of the left elbow of Dustin, and that forced Dustin to abandon any plans to throw his straight and forced him to kind of tuck his elbow in tight, which was it kind of stops that further offense, stops that left hand from coming out. Now, the other scenario for the right kick was if the left hand did come out. So there were some moments where Dustin was able to get his left straight off, and Max would float his right kick underneath it. And the anatomy of any straight punch is that side of your gut is going to be open, and the right kick came up right underneath to clip Dustin in the ribs. So these types of stopping mechanisms are meant to stop your forward advances and also stop or stifle your offense. Now, from the last fight, we learned that Dustin is susceptible to the body, and Max did an incredible job with, again, watching that tape and taking advantage of Dustin's guard tending to block the high line and open up that midline. So Max, we would see oftentimes touching upstairs to get Dustin's guard high, and as those elbows would rise up, Max would make a deposit to that midline and oftentimes would find the target. So again, great job sticking with things. Now, again, that's to say, it's not like Max had to switch every single element of his game up from that last fight. Body work in the second match really paid off, or really did a good job with scoring, and he wound up keeping that in the game plan. So again, very smart planning from Max. And lastly, and this part is so important because it was frustrating watching the second fight, because Max, by and large, would just keep his head more or less on the line, or he would try to roll his shoulders. Those of you guys who are on the Instagram can peep at Boring Breakdowns on Instagram, can peep one of the recent breakdowns that I did just before fight night that showed Max's tendency to stay in the pocket and more or less like rotate his shoulders, almost like he's playing a shoulder roll, but with high guard, looking to roll his jawline with punches. Now, this had mixed success. Sometimes he'd do well, and then sometimes he would get clipped. The new strategy that Max adopted was, instead of keeping his head on the line, as offense would come in, he would just take his head out of that center line and force Dustin to miss on his boxing offense. So this is something that was good for making Dustin miss, but it also served to help Max get his head off center line and sometimes outside of Dustin's punches. And that way, if he was close to the cage, because his head was already on the outside, he was able to continue moving to the outside, get his feet circling, and come back to the center. Now, we have to also talk about Dustin. Again, obviously no slouch. One of the things that I really liked that he played was almost like a Conor McGregor-esque glove grab. So he would use his lead hand to grab a hold of Max's lead hand, and that took away some of the distance-making tools of Max. If someone is holding onto your hand, it's tough to pull away from them, and he used that as a way to pull himself close. Now, Max was able to adapt, and probably one of the coolest most technical adaptations mid-fight was Dustin reaching out to grab Max's lead glove, but Max actually preemptively grabbing Dustin's lead glove. And from there, he was able to initiate a counter because now he's the one that is in control and also blocking one of Dustin's punch lanes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you guys would like the full version with breakdowns that are breaking down specific video segments, you guys can check the Patreon, patreon.com/boringbreakdowns. Again, it will be linked below. I will catch up with you guys on the next one. Peace.